And now for some analysis of the Prime Minister's speech, let's bring in political reporter Julia Doyle. Julie, the Prime Minister pretty much ignored the notion of preferences and sort of took aim at Tony Abbott instead.
That's right, Kumi. Look, it's not what you'd expect her to do normally, to talk in a speech like this, in a set piece. You wouldn't expect her to talk about the Greens and preferences and political strategy and things like that. In these kind of speeches at these conferences, she really talks about the Labor Party and Labor's achievements. So that's what we heard today. And she particularly talked a lot about workplace relations, and that's where she really honed in on the attack on Tony Abbott. And she talked a lot about a speech that Tony Abbott gave a few days ago, where he made a comment that some of the workplace changes to the laws over the past few years have made it harder for businesses to stay open late at night or on weekends or on public holidays. Now, the government has seized on that and said that that's code for the fact that the coalition's going to plan to cut penalty rates. And that's a lot of what we heard from Julia Gillard in that speech today, really talking a lot about this and talking about the coalition's plans for workplace relations and bringing up the subject of work choices again, which is one of the favourite topics the government likes to bring up when it talks about workplace relations. It likes to remind people about work choices. So Julia Gillard spent a lot of time in her speech today talking about these kind of issues. Now, Tony Abbott hasn't announced the full details of the coalition's workplace relations policy. In fact, he hasn't really announced much at all. He keeps using the phrase that the coalition will bring the laws back to the sensible middle ground. So this is an area where the government really sees that it has an advantage at the moment because the coalition's policy isn't out there. It can raise these ideas and talk about these things and talk about things like cutting penalty rates and work choices. So it really sees this as a good line of attack that it has at the moment.
Right, Julie, so linking in with that theme, she also had quite a lot to say then about the lowest paid community sector workers.
Yes, as we heard there in that part of her speech that we just played, she talked a lot about this, a decision that Fair Work Australia announced earlier this year to give a pay rise to low-paid workers in the community sector. A lot of those workers are women as well, so it was about closing the gender pay gap as well. So Julia Gillard made the announcement today that the federal government is going to commit an extra $1 billion to try to put in place that wage rise, because it is going to be quite expensive. They're talking about boosting wages significantly for people in that sector. So it's going to cost a lot of money for the Commonwealth and the states to go ahead and implement that pay rise. So we had that extra commitment from Julia Gillard today. And as you mentioned, it all tied in with this theme today about Labor helping the workers and being really on the side of families and workers.